join us have jumped on. If we have some others jump in, that'll be okay. Uh, for those of you who have just jumped on, I'll say again, my name is Dr. Jess Metzmeyer. I am the Vice President for Career and Professional Development at Center College. We are so excited that you are with us this evening. You'll be able to tell through, the 45 minutes or so that we're together that we really love Center College. We love our Center College students, and we're really excited about the prospect of having you join us. Our conversation today will engage some of our faculty around their work, both in the classroom and in preparing students for where those students are wanting to go. So we'll have some good question and answer from me to them just to kind of get ourselves started. But our big hope here is that we'll have an opportunity to have a conversation with you. And so as we're having a chat here, if you have some thoughts or some questions, you can go ahead and put them in the chat function. In fact, I'll go ahead right now and get the chat function started. There's me, there's my contact information. You can always find me and email me. I'd be happy to chat more. Uh, let's do this too. If you don't mind to just kind of type something in the chat that lets us know who you are and if you have a particular major interest or career interest. And if you're undecided like I was when I got to Center College, that's okay too. You can tell us that, but that helps us know some of the things we might want to talk about. Uh, but while you're doing that, dropping some information into the chat, we'll go ahead and just introduce ourselves so you know who you're hearing from this evening. So as I said, I am Dr. Jess Metzmeyer, the VP for Career and Professional Development. My job is helping you get where it is that you want to go, or maybe even achieve a dream that you didn't know you had quite yet. And so that might be career, it might be professional school, anything in that realm. In addition to this role, I am also an alum. So I graduated from Center College in the class of '04, as did my wife. Had the time of my life. You will too. I was gone. I worked in higher ed and other places for almost 17 years before I came back. I can tell you, Center is an extraordinarily special place, and you will be lucky to be a Center student. So that's my intro. Let me just kind of jump around here to some of my faculty colleagues who are on as well. Amy, you wanna go first?
Absolutely. Hi, everyone. My name is Dr. Amy Frederick. I am a professor of art history, chair of the art program currently, and I'm also director of our campus art gallery. I've been at Center for, I think I'm in my 11th year. And I did not have the experience of a small liberal arts college for my education, but I'm fully in. And both of my daughters actually now attend small colleges. Thank you for being here with us. We're excited to talk about Center.
That's great. Thank you, Amy. Azita.
Hello, everyone. Thank you for inviting me on here. My name is Dr. Azita Osanlu. I am an associate professor in the English Creative Writing and Film Studies program. I'm also a member of the Middle East Studies program, and I direct the Writing Center. I thought I was in my 10th year here at Center, but Dr. Frederick and I appeared in the same year, so we're gonna Wow, it just is going by so quickly. So I'm going to double check that. But I can say more on this later, but I did attend a small liberal arts college when I was an undergraduate. It wasn't Center. And I'm actually very comfortable admitting that it should have been. So I can say a little bit more on that later, but I'll just leave it there for now.
No, I love that teaser, Azita. That's a good one. We'll come back to that one. Sure. Okay, Maylee.
Hi, I'm Maylee Inouye, and I am an assistant professor of Chinese. I started the Chinese program here at Center. We have a major and a minor now to add to a bunch of other languages that I'll talk about later on. I have, let's see, I also teach in Asian studies and I advise a number of Asia-related clubs. So, like in the past, the AAPI, Asian American Pacific Islands Islander Coalition, the Vietnamese Student Association, the Chinese Culture Club. I've been at Center for 5 years now, And I did not attend a liberal arts college undergrad, but I did an MFA in creative writing at a liberal arts college later. And I really, really love the small college. And I have also been at very big institutions as well. So I love what a small college can do for close thinking and close friendships and careers.
That's great. All right. Well, as I said, we'll just jump in and do a few question and answer to kind of get the conversation going. Along the way, if you have any questions or thoughts, feel free to drop them in the chat, and we'll get to them and we'll answer them. Also, if you just have general topics you'd like to make sure that we touch on, as in, hey, I think I'd really like to be an English major, drop that in the chat too. That tells us just a little bit about who you are and helps us make sure we're saying the kinds of things that might be helpful for you. But with that, let me jump in maybe with some first questions. Amy, I think I'll start with you. So
Sure.
you mentioned in your intro, some of your work in art history and just art generally. I wonder if you can speak a bit about kind of translating that liberal arts that we kept talking about. But so, in art history and art broadly, even more broad than those disciplines, just in your time at Center, can you talk to us about how you use your kind of work in the classroom, what you're teaching students, to then prepare them for what it is that's coming next, their careers or graduate school or
Mm.
research experiences that they might need, what have you.
Sure, absolutely. Some of you may know that sometimes research in the humanities or in the visual arts and you are at a small college like ours, you are able to have relationships with your faculty members that enable you to pursue your interests and then also prepare you for what's coming next. Some examples of this that I have seen over my time at Center. Um, First of all, we have had graduates from our humanities and visual and performing arts programs really go anywhere. I was thinking about our current crop of seniors right now, and they are going to be heading to architecture school and library science school and dental school. Recent graduates have started doing marketing for a local clothing company. Um, Another one is pursuing a history of science degree. She was actually a BNS and art history double major, which is a very unusual combination. Um, there's also people heading straight to work at law firms. So really, any kind of career, we can prepare you at a small liberal arts college with the critical thinking skills, communication skills. Um, and research. And so we have several opportunities for research everywhere from within the classroom, where many of, for example, our senior theses are research experiences. We also have independent studies. Our faculty are really, really open and welcoming to working with students who are serious about pursuing a topic that doesn't show up in a class. Over the years, those have been everything from I've had a student curate a show on part of our glass collection at college. I've had a student write a one-woman show. I've had a student do a project on quilting in Kentucky, all as independent studies. These were projects that they wanted to pursue by themselves, and so they worked with a faculty member to do that. And then finally, we have, well, not finally, because we also have internships that are sometimes for academic credit. One of the great things about our general education is that internships can count within the general education. And often you will have not only your internship advisor that's on site, but a faculty advisor who is able to kind of help you contextualize what you're learning in real life with a study of a particular subject. And so those have been really, really fun to participate in as a faculty advisor over the years. And then finally, we have our sort of premier research experiences. We have, for example, and Professor Osanlu can speak to this a little bit also, we have our John C. Young program where rising seniors will apply for a year-long research project where they work very closely with a faculty advisor and then present their research in the spring at a symposium that's open to everybody. So those are just, that's kind of a layering of our different research experiences that that our students can take the opportunity to participate in. Would
That
that answer?
no, that's fantastic. You hit everything I thought that you would plus more. I wonder if I can do just a slight more of a kind of a deep dive into the arts in particular.
Oh, absolutely.
You
Yes.
know, so can you say a bit more about our art program, and then not only where students take that, but even just what that experience is like for 4 years
Uh,
on campus being an art student.
Absolutely. So our program is, we have one program with two majors. So we have a studio art major and an art history major and minors for both too. Our studio art program, we offer painting and drawing. We are just starting with an intro to graphic design class. We offer hot glass and we offer ceramics and photography. And so we like to say we are small but mighty. And then we have two art history professors that cover the history of art, 30,000 years. And we love the flexibility of especially the studio art major. We believe in a BA program and not a BFA program. A BA program allows you to study your art at a very high level of skill while also participating in all of those other aspects of a liberal arts college. So things like I said, like the written communication, the oral communication, you are able to kind of have all of that experience and have a studio art degree. And so we think that's different than a BFA, which is more of like a pre-professional degree where you wouldn't have that more well-rounded experience. And so, like I said previously, our studio art students go on to not only be professional artists, but they also use that art degree in a lot of other fields where being at a small college has greatly helped them with that.
Mm. Oh, that's good. I like that you talked about the ability to kind of pull the arts together with, the written communication, oral communication, all of those pieces, those kind of success skills is the way we would speak to
Yeah.
in my world, things that'll help you be successful in life. And it actually kind of brings to mind a question that popped into the chat. Azita, I was going to ask you a question about this anyway, but it seems Taylor kind of beat me to it. And says wants to be an English major. What is taking a creative writing class like, and what types of courses does a student take as an English major?
Well, thank you. Thank you for that question, Taylor. And Taylor and I have had I think we've had at least one email exchange. So it's nice to see Taylor's name here in the chat. And, and I can speak to this fairly well since the majority of my classes are creative writing classes. I primarily teach fiction writing classes and screenwriting classes. I have also taught journalism classes and creative nonfiction classes. My colleague, Professor Lisa Williams, is primarily our poet, and she also teaches creative nonfiction as well. And so I'm going to try to touch a few bases here, but I'll lean on Jess to make sure I'm not repeating anything Amy said. So to answer the question specifically, I think here in our English program, like a lot of small liberal arts colleges, Center houses their film studies and their creative writing studies under the umbrella of the English program. And we certainly have English majors who will also minor in creative writing and or film studies, but we also have a decent number of students who are pre-med majors or pre-law, who are taking a minor in either film or creative writing or both, in some cases. And so we actually have a fairly broad number of minors who are taking different classes in different divisions as well. But I think Amy had mentioned, or Dr. Frederick had mentioned something about the flexibility of programs, and I would echo that. And I think one of the things that Center does so well for us faculty is to encourage a lot of flexibility and autonomy in how we can do our jobs best for our students. And I think taking a creative writing class at Center, I mean, you might want to talk to some of my students, but from my perspective, it's an open and ambitious and intensive environment that really focuses on student growth. And you know, one of the reasons why I think a place like Center would have been better for the 18-year-old version of me is that I think a lot of small colleges create a distinctive identity for themselves, which is nice for marketing purposes, but sometimes I believe makes incoming students feel like they have to match a certain brand, where Center, I think our brand is growth and ambition. I think we want our students to be ambitious and we want them to grow while they're here. And we believe our job is to help you grow into your ambition. It is not to be a specific version of what we think that ambition should be. And that's sort of how I model my classes. And so in our creative writing classes, we focus on creating a community in which students take the plunge of allowing each other to be readers. And so we read a lot of published fiction. We take it apart the way I think architecture students take apart a building and then rebuild it. We take apart a story or a chapter or an article or an essay. We take it apart, then we rebuild it. Then we try to practice that in the same form in our own work. And I very much encourage students to bring in their raw, unfinished work so that we can look at it with an eye towards what is the best version of this piece and how can we help the writer achieve the best version of whatever that piece is. I'm gonna stop there because I don't want to. I could probably go on for an hour, so I'm gonna stop myself. So, Jess, I'll turn it back to you.
Yeah, and I'll jump in. I was not an English major, but my girlfriend at Center College was, and now she's my wife. And I can tell you, she loved the English
Mhm.
program. What I found happening with her is faculty uh, pushing her to read and try things. Some were within her comfort zone, some were outside. She would write; they would push her to be better. Sometimes, I'll be very honest, she would be frustrated. She would feel like she had done a really good job and they would push her to be even better. And she was able to really kind of hone in on her interests. She was
Mhm.
also able to double major and have a minor. And she left Center College and got a master's degree from Northwestern in English with a specialty in children's literature and uh, ran a educational program in Kentucky for a long time. And now she runs reading groups at local schools with young children. So my point is, like, she was able to kind of find her thing. Now, the other fun thing was at Center, a lot of students end up in English classes uh,
Mhm.
because they are uh, inherently students that are interested in reading things, having fun discussions, exploring topics, right? So those kinds of activities uh, prepare a lot of students for a lot of successful kinds of outcomes. So I just throw that out there, watching what my wife did during our time. Let's see. There was also a question here. Let's see. Libby, I believe you asked about international trade and studies and how best you might answer that. I would probably want to be very specific, connect you with some of our faculty, kind of in international studies and economics and finance. However, I'll say back to the point about Center College, a couple of things to answer your question. A, you could easily double major. If you want to do international trade and studies, You could do an international studies and a econ and finance majors. It would be a really good combination for you, and that's a benefit of being at Center. The other thing is that the way Center's curriculum is designed, you don't have to feel a whole lot of intense pressure about exactly what courses you take in that very first semester. Right, you're going to have some gen eds. There's going to be some things built in for you, some opportunity, frankly, to take some courses, to try some things. So we would kind of help prepare you if you were saying to us you thought you wanted to do international studies and or econ and finance. There might be some suggestions around some classes in, I'm going to guess, macroeconomics or math or government politics that we might suggest, but you're going to take some other things along the way too. So we would kind of help you build the plan specifically for yourself if we would get into that. Um, let's see. There's a couple of other questions that I saw pop up.
Well, I think Maylee and
May
I
Lee is
jumped
answering
in.
something.
Well,
Yes.
we jumped in to try to answer Libby.
Good.
Sorry if we weren't supposed to do that,
No,
but
no, you please do.
we put our first
It's
year
all just
advisor hats
that
on
you're saying
and
what I was suggesting anyway. So here you go.
exactly. And I agree with Maylee's suggestion about leaning into the language too, um,
Mhm.
which you would need to do for an international studies major anyway. So
Right.
yeah.
Which is really, I might circle back to some of the other questions I had for, Azita and Amy, but Maylee, let me come to you because I was going to ask you questions about our language programs and specifically, some of what you had done in developing our Chinese program. And I wonder if you can speak a bit more about what that experience is like for our students.
How's that?
Here we go.
Okay, thank you. So I would love to talk about the language programs here, and I will speak from my perspective, which is the Chinese program perspective. I can't speak for all languages, but what I can say that's consistent across the board in all languages is the desire for you to develop a proficiency so that you can open doors to interact with new ideas, with more people, right? To make connections with parts of the world, places, ideologies, concepts, whatever, right? So that like language is like a tool that you put in your tool belt to open up the world, right? And our language classes will, across all programs and those programs are, we have Chinese, we have Japanese, we have French, Spanish, German, uh, ancient Greek and Latin, right? So we have some of the East and some of the West, right? We had Arabic at one time. We don't have it now, but who's to say we won't have it again, right? Um, but basically, it's like walking through a door and thinking about the world in a way that maybe you haven't thought about before. And language is kind of a prerequisite to opening up that door. So for Libby, or was it Libby, the international studies question, right? Like if you take your language class, your professor, they're not a professor of the language per se. I mean, they have the training and they're a professional in that training, but they're actually interested in a part of the world, in a kind of a discipline in the world that might surprise you, right? So myself, I study performance and revolution and gender and how it all works together to, I look at modern Chinese history, and we look at the ways in which the modern, like the last 100 years of Chinese history have been about experiments, right? These really, really sweeping experiments that were never a done deal, right? So we're looking at alternatives. So you'll have all these professors that have interests, not just in language, actually, that language isn't their interest. That language was the means to an end, right? So when you take those classes, talk to your professors, get to know them, ask them about their research, and do deep dives into the questions that you have about social issues, about political issues, about economic issues, historical things, and all these things will come together. And so what we do with the language classes, the great thing is it's a required, it's a gen ed to take a year of language at Center, 2 semesters. And if you have higher proficiency in a language from your high school years, you could, take a placement exam, and then maybe you'll have like one class, like at a 200 level. So you have this, everyone takes language, And then the language maps on, it pairs really well with all these other classes that you'll be taking at the exploratory level, right? So it might be politics, it might be finance, it might be econ. And then, and as you think about, as you learn language and think about, who you're going to be conversing with, why you would be conversing with them, what you would be conversing about. Your classes in psychology, in art history, in politics are all kind of working together. So you're developing this really kind of comprehensive tool belt. I always talk about it as a toolbox or a tool belt, and you're figuring out when to use what, right? Um, so Center is a great place because it is small. Your professors, you can find this, you just, we have students who will walk crowns, like this is one of our buildings, they'll just walk in a circle. They'll stop at my office, so I teach, Chinese studies, gender studies, then they'll stop next door is an econ professor, the next door is politics professor. They'll just like make their rounds, right? And so language learning kind of is part of this interconnected experience that we offer at Center, right? And so, the benefits are you get to learn the language, you get to reinforce what you're learning with other classes, and then you get to apply them. You get to go study abroad. Our Center Global program, and this is probably where you probably
That's
want
where
to
I
know,
was going. That's where I was going.
right?
Yeah, no,
Is
that's
is
perfect.
one of the best in the nation. And our students, we have, for if you're taking a language, I can speak again from language. Each language has an immersion program as well as kind of like a culture content program. And those, so Spanish will have this, they have this awesome program in Merida with homestays. A lot of schools are shying away from homestays now because it's like too much work, but we have one, right? And we have center professors who go to Merida and who are with you and teach, and spend a lot of time with you there. So there's this awesome homestay program. In France, we have like an immersion one, and we have like a culture one. In German, same. Chinese, we have one in Taiwan. We have one in Shanghai. And so language, you get to learn language and you see how language pays off, right? And I think it's really hard when you're taking a class and you're kind of like forcing yourself to drill and memorize X and Y. It doesn't seem like it's worth it. But once you get to the country you're in, or that speaks that language, or engage with community members who speak that language, suddenly you realize how valuable the investment has been, right? So what I do for Chinese is we bring in people who have worked and studied in China. So if you're interested in international trade or business, we have business language and business liberal arts classes, right? So this year I taught business culture in China. And I brought in all my old pals from my language learning days who worked for the Department of State, who went on to become like CEOs for electric cars in China, right? Or a resource manager for Honeywell, right? They all went on to do these big things, and they all got their start like learning Chinese, right, together. So you'll get to go to I'm sorry, I'm kind of let me get sorry, Jess, I've kind of got confused here. But so you get to go abroad, you get to take these courses, you get to do internships abroad, right? You come back, and I was saying you meet people who we invite. All programs do this. We invite guest speakers and lecturers, professionals and academics to campus so that you can practice your networking abilities. So you can learn from people, you can talk to them. And so a number of my students, when I brought these businessmen who lived and worked in China and got their starts in they got their career started during their study abroad, I've brought them back to campus, and the students have had a lot of fun learning how to network with them, asking them questions like, well, what is it that you look for in someone that you want to hire, right? They can ask those questions, they get direct feedback and a direct line of contact. So language I think you could apply this kind of method to any of the programs that we have at Center. We learn a thing, we apply the thing, right? And we try to see it, we try to make a thing, right? So to Azita or Dr. Osamu's point, right? We imagine things, and then we try to create them using the resources that we have at hand.
I love that. I think I'm going to borrow, and I'll probably cite it, by the way, but I think I'm going to borrow your bit about, the tool that we have in our belt that opens the world. I love that frame because, even as you were describing what happens, students are learning a language and a culture, but to what end then? It's opening a whole world of opportunities that could be quite varied, as a matter of fact. Right.
Mhm.
So the number of things you could do with it, well, it's as wide as a person can imagine. So it's not necessarily as though, you're getting a job in a specific kind of like language-based program, right? But the
Mhm.
language opens up this world. And I think that there's a broader point about what happens at Center College to that. And it goes, to something that I was actually going to ask you, Azita, about, kind of the humanities broadly, at Center, and how is it that we educate students and prepare them. If you look at our alumni roles, there's students that study the humanities and they're literally everywhere, being extraordinarily successful, and have done so for, frankly, 200 years, just like over and over again. So how is it that that comes to be?
Oh, I'm so glad I got to be the one to answer this. I was resisting the urge to go, ooh, ooh, me. But and I'm so glad you met your wife at through Center College's English program, which was not exactly how you said the story, but
Right.
my
That's
it's my adaptation of that love story, that English professors will also be matchmakers. But
And you should know I had one elective left in my last semester, and she said I absolutely had to take an English class. And so
did
my
you?
final class I registered for at Center College was an English class because my wife said so, and it was one of my favorite classes I had at Center.
I mean, I think I think I'm supposed to be really polite and professional on these Zoom calls, but I have a lot of about having a major in the humanities and the importance of of those majors. And it's increasingly more difficult for me to kind of sublimate some of the crankiness that I feel, because if my former colleague, who's now an emeritus professor, Dr. Riegelman, were here, he would say that your life might be in peril if you didn't read Moby Dick. I don't happen to agree with that particular statement,
Uh-huh.
but I do believe that your life might be in peril if you don't understand the nature of building a narrative and understanding a narrative.
Mhm.
And because Chad might be really mad at me after this. I don't think you come to college to get a job. I understand that getting a college degree helps one get a job. I actually think we go to college to shape our ambition and to be the people who shape our ambition. Because when you're 18, you might know several things about yourself, and those several things might be true when you're 25 or 35 or 45 or 75. But you don't necessarily know how your ambition at 18 will lead to your ambition at 35 or 45. And I was a Russian major in college, and I wrote a really long dissertation on преступление и наказание, which is crime and punishment, which I don't know if that helped me get a job specifically, but I think to to um, to Dr. Inouye's point, the idea of embarking on a language and a language study opened doors for me that I didn't quite understand, and the action of opening those doors and opening myself into that inquiry has not indirectly, but has directly placed me where I am right now. And we have English. So to answer the actual question specifically, we have English majors and we have majors in the humanities who go on to do all sorts of things that are kind of, you would expect. They go on to get graduate degrees in English or in literature or in comparative literature. In my field, many people go on to get an MFA or a DFA. But they also go on to do different things because of their ability to understand a story beyond a superficial level. So very quickly, I was I was at the National Portrait Gallery in Washington, D.C. the week of our president's inauguration in January. And there was a really compelling there was a very compelling series of portraits that involved seeing portraits of our current president, Donald Trump, and past presidents, President Barack Obama, President Bill Clinton. And it was also laid out among different different odes to resistance and to patriotism. And I was so impressed by it that I spoke to the curators there, who had been double majors in engineering, and two of them. One of them was a double major in English and engineering. One of them had been a double major in art history and Chinese. Um, and it was very important to them to curate an exhibit that was going to tell a story that would belong to anyone visiting the National Portrait Gallery. And we had a really long conversation, and they're actually going to be coming to Center College. But I think one of the things that we do at Center College really well is that we talk to students about their evolving ambitions, and we invite their ambitions to be evolving. So, I was afraid I was going to run late to this panel discussion because I was literally in my office with a former student who had graduated a few years ago, who has gone on to do some really exciting things in journalism and in travel writing, but is currently kind of feeling stuck. And she's 26, about to be 27, and we were literally charting out some of her career paths. And we had rolled out some whiteboard, and we were on the floor drawing out certain possibilities. And I was so touched that she came back, and I was so impressed by what she had done with her center degree. And I was so touched that she came back to talk to me, and I think to talk to a couple of other professors. And I know that small colleges give a lot of lip service to professors getting to know their students. I went to a small liberal arts college, and I know that that doesn't happen every day, that an alum comes back and we're sitting here, with cold Chinese food, on my desk, smelling up the entire hallway, mapping out the last 4 years and the next 4 years. And I think that's actually something that happens here quite a bit. I mean, maybe not with like the cold food and the rolling out, but in different ways.
I agree with you completely. And let me just say here, we are starting to run low on time, but before I kind of speak to my own personal story, but if anybody has any more questions, please drop them in here. We're happy to chat and answer questions as much as you have them. But what Dr. Osunlu was just saying, I think is what is unique, and it's what's special. Right? If you think about in any aspect of your life, those things that change your life, you're probably thinking of a person, right? You're thinking of a teacher or a coach or a best friend or something. And there's something about people that care enough about you to invest in you as an individual, uh, to understand you and to push you, to know when perhaps you've turned in something and you could do better, even if it was great, you could do better. To know when you suggest, maybe I want to do this, but they know that maybe you're actually just a little bit of afraid and you could actually do that, right? It takes more than simply being an instructor. It takes this kind of investment in your life, and that is the sweet spot at Center College. Uh, and as Dr. Osenlu was saying, it doesn't happen everywhere, and I can tell you that because I went to Center and then I worked somewhere else in higher ed for a very long time. And there are really good people who are really good teachers, but if you want your life to be changed, it's those people that will commit to being on panels like this and doing the things that will help you get where you want to go. And the truth is that we'll be able to help you for your first job and your second job. Um, but your third job and your fourth job, where you're going to end up 25 years after you leave center, it's hard for us to predict and for you to predict. The whole world might be different. So how is it that we help you figure out what is it about you that's important? What are the things that you really enjoy doing? What are those kind of values that you like? But also what you're good at, what you're not good at, what you like doing, but maybe you're not as good at, or what you don't like doing, but maybe you are good at, right? Those are all important things to learn because they will guide you on this path. And I find humanities alumni all the time who are in everything from law to banking to finance to international relations to working in journalism, right? And you'll find them and they'll say, oh, I was an art major. I was an art history major. I was an English major, right? And they'll tell you that is what launched me into my life. And then they'll tell you the story of the professor, the actual professor with a name who showed up for them. And we can have all of these conversations about very specific ways. And if you ever want to email me, I'll tell you all the very specific things we do in the Career and Professional Development Center to help you get internships and job shadows and such. But the thing that's going to change your life uh, is the three faculty, and they're on this call and the people that are like them. And so, you can tell our passion, but just let me say, we are so excited about the potential to have you join the Center College community. We really love what we do. We love working with students. And so I'm going to begin to kind of wrap us up by giving Dr. Frederick and Dr. Emye and Dr. Osunlu a moment here to just kind of have a final word. Uh, as they're speaking, once again, if you have any thoughts or questions, feel free to ask, or you can always email us. But maybe we'll go in reverse order this time. So, Mei Lee, you got
Great.
any thoughts?
Yeah, I was thinking, if I could leave these incoming students with any advice, what would it be, as a freshman? When I was a freshman in college, I didn't know what I wanted to do. 211 credit hours later, I'm not actually the model poster child for getting out of college quickly. I was still exploring, right? And so I would say explore broadly, right? Figure out like what makes my heart flutter, right? What are my underlying questions that motivate me, that make me want to learn more, to lean in? What confuses me? What do I need to understand to kind of clarify that, like to like lift that confusion? What do I not know about the world? It's so rare to have these 4 precious years to just explore, to learn about the world, to learn about people, to interact with people, right? So take these 4 years and treat them almost as this, this exciting experiment and adventure and odyssey, and then create something. My one of my favorite students, no, everyone's a favorite student, right? But one of these students, when she came in, I had her first year. It was my first year, it was her second year, but she started with this question. A lot of my classes are like, I don't want you to write a paper with a conclusion. I just want you to end up with a question, right? And then take it from there. Take it to another class and ask another question, right? So explore. So the student, though, sorry, I'm not being brief, but the student, right? She had this question about caffeine. She loved to drink coffee, and so she ended up embarking on over time this project about caffeine cosmopolitanism. Okay, so she traveled to China, she traveled to Taiwan, and she ended up getting a Fulbright in Taiwan, and now she's at Georgetown. But it just started with like this thing that she loved. And who thought, like, coffee doesn't sound very academic, does it? But coffee drives the world, right? Like coffee, people drink coffee, right? And so she just had a question and she kept adding to it every semester. So I would say explore, but also think about that project. What is it that you can make in 4 years? You can make a lot of things. And so if you keep just adding to that thing, in 4 years, you might have something really impressive and amazing. So, so just think about that, right? Just explore and keep thinking about who am I? What do I want to become? And what am I interested in? And you'll see your classes start to converge. Nothing is wasted, right? Even the econ or science class that you didn't think you wanted to take, so you'll get something from it. Okay. And then the last thing was like, we'll transform you, yes, as professors, but your friendships, the like-minded students that come with similar questions, they'll transform your life too.
Well said. Okay, Dr. Osunlu, you want to go next?
Sure. I mean, I almost don't want to because I'm moved by what was just said, but I think I want to echo a lot of that. I think when you apply for college, you're asked to compartmentalize a lot of yourself so that you want to stand out, you want to be chosen, you want to look good. You look great. And I think when you come to college, you're sort of entrusting your institution with your ambition, and we take that trust so seriously, and we value that trust. And part of that trust means giving yourself permission to fail when you need to fail, to take risks that might work out, might not work out, risks that might not work out until they do. And those are all of the things that you need to court in order to get the most out of your college experience. And trust me when I say every single professor on this panel will help you do that in spades. Um, and I think the process of that is um, rather than being punishing is actually uplifting, because
Mm.
if we're doing our jobs, and I know my colleagues fairly well, so I know we're all doing our jobs really well. If we're doing our jobs, we're helping you attain that ambition in ways that maybe is hard to see when you're 18, and frankly, you shouldn't have to see it when you're 18.
Mhm.
So so that you can do all of the other things in your life that you would like to do and you would like to attain. So please know that I think I speak for all of us. If you have any questions or want to continue the conversation, I know that we're all willing to have it, and probably talk your ear off, but hopefully that's not too bad a thing.
That's wonderful. Uh, all right, Dr. Frederick, I think you get the last word.
All right, I echo everything my colleagues just said. And the only thing I would add is that I think for myself and for my colleagues, we really feel that it is a privilege to work with you for these 4 years. Watching you arrive on campus when you're 18, and you're questioning a lot, and then having you leave us 4 years later, having a stronger sense of self, and helping you along the way. All of the faculty at Center College, the staff at Center College, and the friends that you will make at Center College will be part of that experience, of getting you closer to being who you are. And I think from my perspective, it is absolutely a privilege that I get to do this every day. So, and I
Mm.
think I speak for a lot of people. So.
I think that that's a fantastic way of wrapping this up. Let me just say thank you to our faculty who joined us this evening, and to our guests. We really enjoyed being able to have this conversation and answer some of your questions. The conversation doesn't have to stop. There's multiple ways of getting in contact with us. My email address is all the way at the beginning of that chat. We be happy to talk about any specifics that you have. But let's just leave it here that, Center is a special place where a lot of people will care enough to make sure that you go everywhere you want to go, and maybe even just a little bit more. And so we thank you so much for being with us this evening, and we will say good night. Thank you.